for the first question.
Yeah, I'd like to start with Governor Romney. Obviously, Iraq is still a major issue in this campaign. And over the last few days, there's been a real back and forth going on here. Senator McCain has said over and over again that you supported a timetable for phased withdrawal from Iraq. Is that true?
Absolutely, unequivocally, if I can get that word out, unequivocally, absolutely no. I have never, ever supported a specific timetable for exit from Iraq. And it's offensive to me that someone would suggest that I have. And I have noted that everyone from Time magazine to Bill Bennett over there to actually CNN's own analyst, he said it was a lie. And it's absolutely wrong. I do not support that, never have. And Senator McCain pointed to an interview I had back in April with ABC when I said that our president and their prime minister should have timetables and milestones. We have timetables and milestones for progress that we're making together. But I never suggested a date specific to withdraw. And actually, she asked me a question. The next question was, if Congress were to give you a date specific for withdrawal, would you, Senator, veto it? I said, I'd veto it. I'm opposed to setting a specific date for withdrawal. By the way, we've had since that time 10, 12 debates. Senator McCain never raised that question in any of those debates. If he ever wondered what my position was, he could have raised it. I instead have pointed out time and time again, and let me make it absolutely clear again tonight, I will not pull our troops out until we have brought success in Iraq. And that means for me that we do not have safe havens for Al-Qaeda or Hezbollah or anyone else, that our troops have secured the population from that kind of threat, that they will not have safe havens from which they could launch attacks against us. And if there's any misunderstanding, those words should make it perfectly clear, as have every single debate that I've attended, Senator, 15 debates. I do not propose, nor have I ever proposed, a public or secret date for withdrawal. It is simply wrong. And by the way, raising it a few days before the Florida primary, when there was very little time for me to correct the record, when the question I was most frequently asked is, oh, you're for a specific date of withdrawal, sort of falls in the kind of dirty tricks that I think Ronald Reagan would have found to be reprehensible.
Senator McCain, tough words.
Well, of course, he said he wanted a timetable. Before that, we have to understand that we lost the 2006 election, and the Democrats thought that they had a mandate. They thought they had a mandate to get us out of Iraq. And I was prepared to sacrifice whatever was necessary in order to stand up for what I believed in. Now, in December of 2006, after the election, Governor Romney was asked what he thought about the surge. He said at that time, I won't weigh in, I'm a governor. At the time, he didn't want to weigh in because he was a governor. I was out there on the front lines with my friends saying, we not only can't withdraw, but we got to have an additional troops over there in order for us to have a chance to succeed. Then in April was a very interesting year in 2007. That's when Harry Reid said, the war is lost and we got to get out. And the buzzword was timetables, timetables. Governor, the right answer to that question was no, not what you said. And that was, we don't want to have them lay in the weeds until we leave. And Maliki and the president should enter into some kind of agreement for, quote, timetables. Timetables was the buzzword for withdrawal. The whole quote,
Senator?
I'm using the whole quote where you said I won't
on not using the actual quote?
The actual quote is, we don't want them to lay in the weeds until we leave. That is the actual quote, and I'm sure fact checkers. It means a timetable for until we leave.
Senator, let
me jump in. The quote that I have.
Is it not fair to have the person who's being accused of having a position he doesn't have be the expert on what his position is? How is it that you're the expert on my position when my position has been very clear? I'll tell you.
I'm the expert. This is the kind of. I'm the expert on this. When you said I won't weigh in, I'm a governor. You couldn't weigh in because you were a governor back when we were having the fight over it.
That's a separate point.
The fact is that I have fought for this surge. I have said we need to have this succeed. I know the situation in Iraq, and I am proud to have supported this president and supported the fact that we are succeeding in Iraq today. If we had done If we had waited and laid in the weeds until we leave, then al-Qaeda would have won, and we would be facing a disastrous
There's
situation.
two separate issues being discussed, and I just want to clarify both of them. First of all, to Senator McCain,
that are direct quotes.
to Senator McCain, the quote is from Governor Romney on GMA that you're quoting. The actual quote is, well, there's no question that the President and Prime Minister al-Maliki have to have a series of timetables and milestones that they speak about, but those shouldn't be for public pronouncement. You don't want the enemy to understand how long they have to wait in the weeds until you're going to be gone. He does not say he is supporting a withdrawal.
You don't have to wait until the enemy lays in the weeds until we leave. That means that we were leaving.
It's open
if
to
we
interpretation.
weren't leaving, how could the enemy lay in the weeds?
Sorry. Senator, if you had a question on this, if you had a question on this, you could have asked it.
Could not weigh in as governor on the surge when it was a critical issue.
Okay, so that's the second issue. So let me just allow you to respond to the issue of the going to be gone, laying in the weeds question.
Timetables was the buzzword for those that wanted to get out.
Okay.
The answer was no.
And you're saying point blank you did not want to get out then. What did you mean by that statement?
That we have a series of timetables and milestones for working on the progress that they're making, the progress we're making, the rule of law, what their soldiers are doing, what our soldiers are doing, how many troops they're able to recruit, how well trained are they. And as a matter of fact, the individual asked in the following question, do you have a specific time? Would you support Congress if they gave you a specific time? I said absolutely not. And by the way, this has been around. If this was a question, it could have been raised in April or May.
On the second issue
that it was raised.
I want to give you an opportunity.
It was raised
many times. I've raised it many times. Is whether you have the experience and the judgment to lead this country in the war against radical Islamic extremism. I've raised that many times.
I want to give
Senator McCain,
and I will continue to raise it.
I want to give Governor Romney the opportunity to respond to the other accusation. I want to give. Let's just focus on this second one, which is the issue that Senator McCain raised, which was actually going to be my next question to you, was that you were asked about backing the surge when you were a governor, and you did say you would not take a position. This was in December of 2006. 2 months later, you announced you were running for president. Why, 2 months before you were running for president, were you not willing to take a position on supporting or not supporting a surge?
Look, as a governor of the state, there are a lot of issues of a federal nature that I didn't take a position on. I was running a state. My responsibility was for running a state. When I became a governor, I took a whole series of positions on national issues. That's normal and natural. With regards to the surge, the briefing that I received an early briefing from Fred Kagan on the size of our military. After I received that, I said I support increasing our military by at least 100,000. And then just prior to the president's announcement of the surge, I spoke again with Fred Kagan, and he laid out the philosophy of the surge, his vision for it. As you know, many consider him one of the authors of the surge idea. And when he gave me that report, I met with my staff and announced that day that I supported a surge. The president announced later that day the entire program. So I supported it as a candidate for president, number one. Number two, with regards to this idea that I favor a specific date for withdrawal, I do not. We've had, I believe, since that interview that the senator quotes, we've had 10 or 12 debates. He's never raised that issue with me. He's never said, are you for a date specific? I've been asked that question time and again. Last debate we had, I said, I will not leave Iraq until we have secured Iraq, make sure it'll never become a safe haven. And what's interesting here is it's an attempt to do the Washington-style old politics, which is lay a charge out there, regardless of whether it's true or not. Don't check it. Don't talk to the other candidate. Just throw it out there. Get it in the media, in the stream. There's not a single media source that I've seen that hasn't said it was reprehensible. Even the New York Times said it was wrong. The Washington Post, they endorsed it. The Washington Post gave you 3 Pinocchios for it. It's simply wrong, and the senator knows it.
Senator
McCain,
final comment on this subject, and then we have a lot more about Iraq that we're going to talk to the other candidates about as well.
That was the critical time of the debate. It wasn't when he said what he said in December. It was after the election. President Bush fired Rumsfeld, and we announced that we were going to have a new strategy. That was the critical time. Timetables was the buzzwords. Timetables were the ones. And as far as Washington top politics is concerned, I think my friend Governor Huckabee, sir, will attest the millions of dollars of attack ads and negative ads you leveled against him in Iowa, the millions of dollars of attack ads you attacked against me in New Hampshire and have ever since. A lot of it's your own money. You're free to do with what you want to. You can spend it all. But the fact is, that your negative ads, my friends, have set the tone, unfortunately, in this campaign. I say to you again, the debate after the election of 2006 was whether we were going to have timetables for withdrawal or not. Timetables were the buzzword. That was the Iraq study group. That was what the Democrats said we wanted to do. Your answer should have been no.
I want to go Jim Van de Heye with a question for, I believe, Congressman Paul.
Congressman Paul.